Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at energy fuels. It is time for another update, and today we will be discussing the latest developments in this area. We have likely formed the bottom here within this wave 4 correction, and we were able to predict quite accurately when we should expect this area to start a reversal, when we had a full count within this structure. And now we are looking for the fifth wave to the upside, but there are some interesting developments going on in this area which aren't necessarily too bullish. But we will get to that in a moment, because quickly I want to go through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are tracking a larger 1-2 setup. We are looking for an overall impulse to form to the upside, and now from this area of support from the wave 2 correction, we are looking for a third wave to the upside. Now there are some caveats about this wave 3, because we expect quite extended levels to be reached if this really is to be the third wave to the upside itself, and we may need to assume that this isn't the actual wave 3. It could be another wave 1 to the upside, which would be part of the larger wave 3. But unless we manage to get here within this fifth wave to the upside to the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which I have provided you in many of the previous videos, I have shown you the exact levels we were looking for. It is around the $129 level that what we are looking for to reach within this structure to the upside. Within this wave 3, we are looking for an ideal target at around the $129 level, which is a bit of a problem, because if this is to be a fifth wave, it is not impossible to get there, but it isn't necessarily too much of a likely scenario either. Sometimes the fifth wave is the strongest wave, but it isn't necessarily the most probable outcome, where usually, most commonly, we find the third wave to be the actual strongest wave. Now, since we have already built here the wave 1, 2, and 3 within this uptrend, we really only expect after this bottom in the wave 4 to form a fifth wave to the upside and have a more full structure complete. And then we could be tracking this as another 1-2 setup and look for the 3-wave correction in a wave 2 and another entry for continuation even higher, where that would be a hyper bullish scenario, even more bullish than getting directly here to the ideal target in the wave 3. But it also comes with the threat of building or having a larger pattern complete, where in an ideal scenario, in an ideal world, we would be tracking this as an impulse and we would be building an overall impulse, a 5-wave move to the upside, but there is basically nothing stopping it from building an overall ABC pattern and be done with this structure, where in the wave C we don't even need to get to the 138.2% extension, and not only that, the ideal target is actually at around the 100% extension of the wave A. And once that pattern would be complete, we would be able to reverse quite low, even below the beginning of this wave C, even possibly to new all-time lows, although that is still very, very far away. And many other scenarios will be preferred before we head into those areas. But the idea is that in this wave C, we wouldn't be looking here for the 138.2% extension. We would be looking for the 100% extension, which is around the $46 level. Now, again, you see here 128. I may have not drawn that perfectly. It is around that area anyway, the target that we are looking for the overall wave 3. We can even add here a third wave to the upside. Around the $120-$130 level. Now, with that said, we can move here into the smaller time frame, where we have had good success tracking this pattern to the upside. We have been looking for this direct continuation to push higher and higher, and it has even actually surprised us with this extension with a very, very shallow retracement, but not a problem, because quite reliably this internal third wave to the upside is complete, and this is the correct count if we are to build an overall 5-wave structure. Now, in that case, we can even remove here this internal structure, because I am not looking in any case for further extensions within this internal count. And right now, based on the proportions, this wave 4 has built or has formed a sufficiently large correction to consider it complete. And not only that, we actually even have quite a full pattern in this area, where I have a very clear ABC structure which has unfolded. There are a couple of ways in which I could be tracking this scenario. For example, I could be looking at this as an WXY pattern, in which case it would be all fine to track here in the wave Y something like an ABC, or what we have here on the chart, a larger ABC structure. It is all the same. It has enough waves to be complete, and we don't need any additional lows. Now, with that said, we don't have yet any high level confirmation that this structure to the downside is complete. We have only built here a small, very tiny initial wave 1 to the upside, and in the wave 2 we haven't even gotten to the area of support here. However, we did break above the resistance levels that we are tracking for a possible extensions within this fifth wave, and now I find it much more likely that even if we are to form here new lows, we should be expecting a different pattern. Yeah, we should be considering most likely this overall ABC structure complete, and we should be looking, maybe if we are to look for additional lows, for a larger ABC movement. But so far so good. We don't necessarily have anything against going directly higher, even though here within this pattern we don't seem to be building the ideal wave tree that we were tracking here in the white scenario, which I removed a moment ago by accident, since in this internal structure the best I can do is track another 1-2 setup, because yeah, this is in the best case scenario a diagonal pattern. It could realistically be a series of 1-2 setups in this area, but honestly nothing anywhere close to reliable, and it is not something that I would focus on. And if I were to be looking right now for continuation higher, the best I can do is track here an internal 1-2 setup once again. And if we don't manage to hold here this area of support for the follow-up wave 2, well, we will have a backup interpretation where we could allow a larger ABC structure to be complete as a wave 1 and allow a deeper retracement, but that wouldn't be a very reliable trade setup either. Right now, we are hanging a bit by a thread. Yeah, it is going much worse on this chart compared to the uranium energy chart, the UAC chart right now. There we are holding the levels of support much better, although based on the current strength right now, I wouldn't be surprised if the idea of an impulse forming on the chart could be failing as well, but we will need to be a bit more patient for that. Now internally, if we are to be looking for the first level of support, it isn't a high probability trade setup. Yeah, I want to make that very clear, because we have here a double 1-2-1-2, but this structure could easily align within an ABC pattern. Now, from a large time frame perspective, it is not hurting the possibility of pushing here into a fifth wave to the upside, because in the end, a wave 5 could easily be formed of an ending diagonal, meaning that the internal subwave, so the wave 1 could be an ABC structure. Yeah, we form here a 1-2 setup, and then we form a third wave in another ABC structure, and then a fourth wave, and then a fifth wave, another ABC structure in the wave 5. And we could easily head to new highs within such a pattern. Yeah, no problem. We may already have in this case the wave 1 complete, but it will be a low probability interpretation from a small time frame perspective. From a large time frame perspective, however, yeah, sure, we are deep, still deep into the area of support. We have gotten just below the 38.2% retracement, and we have a complete correction in this area and started a small reversal to the upside. Yeah, it does look like a V-shaped recovery forming, and we can even draw here maybe a trend line to actually let us know when this structure could be expected to start a more serious breakout. Now, since this could extend to new lows, we should also be considering this a possible larger wave A and look for a wave B to the upside and a C wave down, and for that we can track here a larger, more generic area of resistance. Yeah, this isn't also a high probability reversal from a resistance area either, because there is no 5-wave move to the downside. Yeah, we only have reliably a 3-wave pattern. But as we can see, we have pushed here into the 38.2% retracement, which is where the area of resistance begins at the $16.5 level, and started this strong reversal to the downside here. Yeah, we can see quite clearly, even on the different time frames, how perfectly we pushed here into the 38.2% retracement from the yellow resistance area and started this reversal. Now, this area expands all the way up to the $23 level, and more relevant in this case, however, might be the structural resistance levels here. For example, at the $18.6 level, yeah, that is something quite significant I would be watching out for. And then here between the $22 level all the way up to the $23.4 level. Yeah, I would be focusing on these areas if I were to be looking for resistance from a slightly larger time frame perspective. But right now, we aren't anywhere close to those levels, and we are still bound by these structural resistance levels, which, yeah, we did push into them and we did get rejected. Nothing that should be too surprising, but this correction to the downside is slightly stronger than I would have preferred. Because see, I would have liked this structure to also build something like a series of 1-2 setups in this area, and then start a third wave to the upside more convincingly, or continue here with this as a third, fourth, and a fifth, but we haven't managed to hold here the area of support for a wave 4 internally, and I'm not even going to draw that because this video is already quite long. So right now, what we are focusing on are the levels between the $15.5 all the way down to the $14.5 at the 78.6% retracement, and if we are to break here the 78.6% retracement, well, honestly, both scenarios, both interpretations have kind of similar likelihood to work out. Neither of them is too great, but I would be quite careful on this chart right now because we don't have any reliable pattern forming here on the very small time frame, and we should be prepared even for this large 1-2 setup to work out in the end, because yeah, from a large time frame perspective, we have a full count and we can be prepared for the extension higher. But honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised at this point if we actually extend in a more direct fashion lower. Who knows? Maybe we can even see something like a 1, 2, 3, fourth, and the fifth, although this wouldn't be a preferred interpretation for me. I might even focus here on the larger ABC, although in either case, I would actually still like to see continuation higher, at least into the area of resistance, even if we don't manage to form the fifth wave to the upside for now. But yeah, right now there isn't much to say here in the very short time frame. The momentum to the downside still seems to be increasing, but it is on a very small time frame, and I wouldn't mind it too much. For now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.